Bismillah, welcome to Persian 103, Advanced Grammar. Congrats for making it this far. All right, so the first bit of advanced grammar that we're going to learn is the future tense. But don't worry, it's not all that advanced. It's actually relatively simple, believe it or not. So the formula for making the future tense, the only I don't even know, slightly difficult part of it is that you just have to learn how to conjugate this verb. But we've already covered conjugating verbs in the present tense, and I'll give you the stem, so there's no guesswork there. Basically, all you do is you take the word khwastan or khastan, since we've dropped that W in contemporary Persian, and you conjugate it in the present tense. And maybe I'll actually put this here. This note should really just be under that. The stem that you need for that is kha. So if you guys recall, to conjugate in the present tense, you need the present stem, which it isn't such a walk in the park to derive it like the past stem when you just remove the noon. But in this case, I've just given you the present stem, so you don't have to worry about memorizing it. So khastan is to want, to desire, and kha is the stem. And then what you do is, so that instigates, that tells you it's the future tense. Like I want, I shall, I will, something like that. And then what you actually want to do, all you do is you take the present tense third person of that verb, which is also the same as saying the past stem. And to get that, all you do is you just remove the noon from the infinitive of the verb. It's really simple. So how does this look? So again, we have khastan, but in the present tense. So you need the stem kha. And then we have the present third person verb. And you just remove the noon from the infinitive to get that. So let's look at how this looks. And by the way, these are the present tense endings, just as a quick review. I know we covered them 2 classes ago at the end of 102, but just in case. They are am, e, ad, im, ed, and. And you'll see that they're almost the same as the past, except for the fact that in the past tense, third person, there is no dal. There is just the blank. But this information will be on the next slide in the conjugation. So how does this work? So if you guys recall, again, khastan, the stem is kha. And all we do is we attach those endings that you just saw in the last slide to kha. So we get khaham, khaham, khahi, khahi, khahad, khahad, khahim, khahim, khahid, khahid, khahand. Simple enough. Then we add the third person past tense or the past tense stem of any verb. Now, in this case, I just arbitrarily chose goftan. And then remember, goftan, it looks like this in the infinitive. Goftan. And to get the past tense stem, we get goft, right? Now, you could conjugate this how you know. You could say goftam, gofti, goft, etc. if you want to conjugate this in the past tense, but we're not doing that, right? We just want the stem, which is, again, the verb, but without the noon, the infinitive, but without the noon. The noon is removed. So khaham goft, literally conjugated, is I want, I desire, he said. Literally is what it means. I want, he said. You want, he said. He, she, they wants, he said. We want, he said. You all want, he said. They all want, he said. But when put together, they mean I shall say. Why this ended up being this way, I'm not exactly sure. Someone who's like an expert in Middle Persian grammar would have to come and explain how this happened. But all I know is that this means I shall say. Khaham goft. Khahi goft, you shall say. Khahad goft, he shall say. Khahim goft, we shall say. Khahid goft, you all shall say. And khahand goft, they all shall say. Yeah, it's interesting that there's no actual conjugation for the future tense in Persian. Arabic is also like this, except Arabic is much easier. Instead of having to conjugate anything, you just add a particle to the present tense conjugation. Whereas in Persian, we conjugate the verb to want in the present tense, and then we add the stem, the past tense stem of the verb attached to it. So I'll leave this slide up for a second. Are there any questions, comments, anything? Basically, this slide is the only cheat sheet you know because all you need to know is how to conjugate the verb to want in the present tense, which I've just given you here. The second verb, any verb, as soon as you know the infinitive, you could just remove the noon and then you have the answer. So raftan is to go. You just remove the noon. Raft, say khaham raft, I shall go. Khahi raft, you shall go. Khordan is to eat. You remove the noon. Khaham khord, I shall eat. No, wait, I'll eat later. Khahi khord, oh, if you come to my house, you will eat a good meal, etc. So it's really this simple. All right. And if there are any questions, this is just your cheat sheet. You can just look at this. All right. How do we treat compound verbs in the future tense? Well, it tends to be that the verb in the future tense will intervene between the noun and the verb. This is because whatever changes are done to the verb, they're attached to the verb. Like, for example, if you want to say, pretend there's no khaham here. Pretend it just says kar kard, which means he worked. Right? Again, pretend khaham. Let's just say we have the verb kar kard. So it's a compound verb. Kar means work. Kard means he did. Kar kard. Right? Now, if you want to say he didn't work, you would say kar nakard. He didn't do his work today. He didn't get paid. Kar nakard, for example. Notice the noon is added to the verb. Now, let's say he was working when I came and I saw he's working. I said, great job. Kar mikard. Kar kard. Kar nakard. Kar mikard. Now, you guys have learned all these little additions, but even if you don't remember them at this exact moment, what's important is that the verb is what's being added to or changed, etc. The word kar in this whole instance has remained untouched. The same is true for the future tense conjugation. Kar khaham kard. So the khaham is added to the verb. We would never say khaham kar kard or kar kard khaham. We don't say either of those. We say kar khaham kard. Kar khahi kard. Kar khahad kard. کار خواهیم کرد کار خواهید کرد کار خواهند کرد. So again, when we have a compound verb, we just treat the verb like it's a normal verb and the compound is just some extra information, essentially, or the noun. And in the same spirit, when we negate the first part of the verb. Right? It's the same thing here. When you want to negate this phrase, kar kard, so imagine again you have kar kard here. When you want to negate, imagine you have like a little noon floating. And you know that the negation is a noon and that it needs to get attached to this phrase. All you do in Persian is you just attach it to the first possible verb. So you look at kaf, you're like, that's not a verb. Aleph, that's not a verb. Re, that's not a verb. Kaf, oh, this is a verb. Okay, perfect. I'll attach the noon. Kar nakard. And then this is the same thing is true for the phrase kar khaham kard. So again, we take khastan. The stem is kha. And then we add a meme, khaham, I shall. And then kard is a third person past tense. So khaham kard, I shall do. Kar khaham kard, I shall work. So we want to negate it. We have the noon. Not a verb, not a verb, not a verb. Choham. Oh, it's a verb. Okay, we'll add it. Nechoham. Kar nechoham. Kart. Kar nechoham. Kart. So we come here. Kar nechoham kard. Kar nechohi kard, etc., etc. So that's how it goes essentially in Persian. All right, I think this is relatively simple as far as a tense can go. Let me know if you guys have any questions again before I move on from it. You have khastan, its stem is kha, and you conjugate that in the present tense. You add these endings. And this is what it looks like. Khaham, khahi, khahad, khahim, khahid, khahand. And then you add the third person past tense conjugation of the verb, which is just its past stem as well, just universally. Copy, paste, copy, paste. And this applies for all verbs. So you could literally find any verb in the dictionary, and this formula, all you do is remove the noon and just paste this in. Now, those of you who grew up speaking Persian colloquially, you might say, wait a minute, we don't really say this that often. We don't actually, you might have not even heard this if you've only spoken Persian briefly. Let's say you have like one grandparent who speaks Persian. You might have said, I've never heard this before. Well, the reason is that the future tense is only used when writing or speaking formally, or in cases where you really want to make a point. So if you've never seen people like argue in Persian, or never heard like a political rally, or watched a speech, or read a book, you might have never come across this. But to give you examples of when people would say this in spoken speech, someone might be talking about the country Iran, and they might say, Iran abad khahad shod. Iran abad khahad shod. Iran abad, settled. We saw this already, like in Abadan, Hyderabad, etc. Settled, prosperous, etc. Again, it shall be. Iran shall again be prosperous. Khahad shod, shall be. So the verb here is shodan, to become. And then you remove the noon, right? So we have shodan. You remove the noon, you get should, is its past tense third person. And then Iran is the third person singular, so we say khahad, should. Khahad should, shall be. That's why we have Iran abad khahad should. Iran shall prosper, someone will say. Or if your parents are, fighting with you, they'll say, if you do this, you will be grounded. I'm going to do it anyway. And then your mother will say, khahidit. Khahi, again, is the second person. And then deed, if you take didan, which is to see, you remove the noon, you get deed, which is the third person past tense in the stem, and then you add khahi, you shall see. Khahi deed, you shall see. Just like we say in English, right? We wouldn't, if you want to say you're really upset, you wouldn't say you're gonna see, you'll say you shall see. So if we don't tend to use this in colloquial speech, how do we talk about the future tense? It's actually the same way as in English. What you do is you indicate the time in the future and you use the present continuous. So in English, you could say, we shall go out tomorrow, but you'll probably sound like, I don't know, like a British posh lord or something like that. I don't know. No one would say that here. You just say, tomorrow we are going out. Tomorrow we're going out. Just like in Persian, farda, tomorrow, miravim, we are going, birun, out. It's actually word for word in this case. So we do the same thing. We specify the time, and then we have a present continuous conjugation. And this is the same sense as English. Tomorrow I'm eating pizza. Farda pizza michoram. It's the same thing as in Persian. So it's the same as in English and Persian. They're really similar in this instance. Like if you give a speech in English, I don't know, like a diaspora rally, you would never say Iran will be prospering again or Iran's gonna prosper. You'd say Iran shall prosper. And if you're arguing with a child or something, or teenager, you shall see, you know. Whereas in colloquial speech, you say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go," or "We're getting this tomorrow." You know, you wouldn't say "shall." So that's basically the future tense. So if you're worried about literature, or if you're just interested in Persian as a written and read language more than a spoken one, this is really important to wrap around getting to know how to use it comfortably. If you're interested in Persian more as a spoken language than a written and read one, as long as you understand this when you see it, that's fine. You don't have to worry about being, ready at hand, so to speak. All right. Now let's talk a bit about numerical expressions. Unless there's any questions about what we just said. There's no questions, so I guess it is as simple as it seems to me. But I'm happy to take any if there are. All right, so some few numerical expressions. So last time we covered numbers. Now some more words to use with those numbers. The word chand followed by a singular specifically means how many. So chand ruz means how many days. You can ignore the verb for now. You can just say that. Like someone says, we're going to, I don't know, Boston. How many days will you be there? Chand ruz. But specifically singular. If you say chand ruz ha, then it's not a question how many anymore. It's something else. You could be saying something different, but it's not a question. It needs a singular. Now, in this case, in this example, how many days did you remain? So mondan, if you guys recall, I think we covered it briefly. Mondan, we covered in the present stem class because you remove the dan at the end. But anyway, mondan is to remain. Mond is the past tense. Mondid is you remained. So chand ruz mondid. How many? Like in English, ruz days, but in Persian we keep it singular, again followed by a singular. Really the only difference with English. And then mondid. Did you remain? Question mark. Chand ta zaban midani. And you know what? I'm going to put ta in brackets because it's not fully necessary. I think we talked about this last time. You could put it in Iranian Persian, we commonly put it, but it's not necessary in classical Persian. You can just say chan zaban midani, but we're likely to use the counting word chan ta zaban midani. So again, chand plus singular. So unlike English, we do not say languages. We say how many language? Midani, do you know? And it's not just Persian that does this, because here in New York, I often talk to people who are learning English, maybe from 6 months ago, they've just started, and they will often ask questions and then have a singular. They'll say how many language you know, for example. So I think there's definitely other languages. Yeah, like in Arabic, kam lughat ta'arif, how many languages? They wouldn't say kam lughat, I'm pretty sure. As far as my experience goes. And I think other languages are the same. And then chand bar rafti. Now, in this case, you actually do need the counting word, so I won't put it in parentheses. If you say chand rafti, it sounds like how much did you pay to go, but it sounds like very colloquial if you say it that way. So chand bar rafti, this time it's actually necessary. How many times, and again, we say time in Persian, you went. So raftan is to go. And then you remove the noon. You get raft as the past tense stem. And then you add a y, rafti, you went. So chand bar rafti. Is danistan the infinitive of midani? Yes, the verb danistan. Danistan. This is supposed to be, oh man, that looks terrible. Danistan. This verb danistan means to know. And the past tense stem is danis. That's simple. Easy to figure that out. The present tense stem is just dawn. So then if you say me dawni, so dawn with a Y is you, and then me is continuous. Me dawni means continuously no, currently no, actively no. So chan zaban mi dani, and you could separate it like that as well. You could do this. That's acceptable. You could write it this way or this way. People, actually, someone emailed me and asked me this. He says, either of these are acceptable. These are the same. You could put a little equal sign. I don't know. There's no difference between them in correctness. It's just preference. It's totally preference. It's kind of like how, again, you can see this re-election, and you can see this, and then you could see there's like the New Yorker does this weird thing. All of these are considered valid by different people. It's the same here, essentially. But I would say we're moving towards this direction. So in Persian writing, historically, Midani would have been written that way. And then now, then it started to get written that way. Then people invented the zero with non-joiner, and now it's being written that way. So this is the general. You could actually even sense when something was printed by which spelling they choose. So like a really old book would have this, and then a book from, I don't know, like the 60s to the 2000s would have this, and a book from the 2000s onwards is likely to have that. All right. Okay. And then with waqt, which means time, it means how long. So if you say chand waqt Iran mandi, chand waqt together means how long. And then Iran is the name of the country. And then mandi is you remained. So chand waqt or chand vacht is what Iranians actually say, is how much time, how long. Now, I would be interested to see if Wiktionary includes this usage note. Let's go to the Persian entry. I don't know why I don't think of these things when I'm making the slides, but if you go to Persian, yeah, see, there you go. This is one note about Iranian Persian, and apparently it's not just an Iranian Persian. It seems to think in Kabuli Persian as well. So in Arabic, interesting. So it might even have been from in Iranic originally, but in Arabic it's waqt, which is the classical Persian way of saying it. So classical Persian tends to say words the way Arabic says them. And then apparently in formal Dari, it's waqt as well, which is only slightly different from the Arabic pronunciation. And in Tajiki, it's vaqt. So they have the va thing that Iranians do, even though they don't always have a V, but they kept the qaf. So it's vaqt. But then in Iranian Persian, two changes happened. So the W became a V, which is a very common thing in Iranian Persian. It's almost like the default, essentially. So in Arabic, you have waqt. And then, so it became vaqt. But then, probably what happened is this would have been said at some point as a GH, aqain, vaqt. But then over time, that became further simplified to vacht. And then even simplified to vach sometimes. Man yevach goftam instead of man yevacht goftam. So you can see how words evolve over time. So this would have been like, I don't know, the year, let's say the year 800. It's hard. I mean, this is so imprecise, but this is like in 800, someone would have been saying this. I'm not saying this is the year it started, but in that year, it would have been said this way. Then probably like in the year 1400, this was the case. And then probably in like the year 1600, this is the case. Probably like in the year 1800, this is the case. And probably like in the year 2000, this type of pronunciation became normal. Who knows, maybe earlier. But this is how words evolve, essentially. So from waqt to vacht to wacht, to wacht, to wach. So anyway, there's viral, maybe I could do this. There's viral videos where people pronounce English words going back from like Proto-Indo-European to Old Germanic to Old English to like Norman era English to today. Anyway, so that's the timeline of this word in Iranian Persian. So if you want to be classical, you say waqt, but if you sound Iranian, you can say vacht. And actually, I'll even transliterate this in Iranian Persian. So this is classical Persian to avoid being biased, but this is what we would say in Iran. Chan vacht Iran mandi. So in classical, it would be chan waqt Iran mandi, chan vacht Iran mandi in Iranian Persian. But the spelling is the same. And this is the problem with reforming the spelling in Persian. Both of these pronunciations are contained in the Arabic spelling. But if we had to pick a Latin spelling, what would happen is this is the spelling that would get picked, and then our awareness of classical Persian would just be like wiped away forever. But then again, old books may be reprinted from newer orthography. Yes, I meant with printing. It depends when it was printed, not when the book is from originally. So if you look at a copy of the Masnavi printed 100 years ago, it'll have this, and then a copy from 50 years ago, it'll have this, and a copy from 2 years ago will have that. All right. Great. So Chan Vakt Iran Mandi, literally how long Iran you remained. How long? Chandom, you just add an in front of chand. You can get a hint for what it's asking for. It's asking for an answer. So if you say chand you're not looking for yek, you're looking for yekom, dovom, sevom. So if you have emruz chandom ma hast, you say emruz dovom ma hast, sevom ma hast, charom ma hast. And I don't even know why I didn't include this, but the same is true for in. I don't even know why did it do that. Chandomin. Trying to get it to play nice here, but it won't. Yeah. Chandomin. If you ask chandom in, you have to give a chandomin answer. So the answer here could be emroz sevomin ma hast, for example. Although we wouldn't say it, I'd have to come up with a completely new example for that. For example, we could say in dars chandomin ast. So in this case, chandomin is actually correct. Now, there's also a slight nuance in chandomin that is kind of hard to explain. So I'm trying to explain this. It's just like, it's really hard to capture the small nuance here. So imagine you have a book of Persian that we're studying. You have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, 4, 5, right? Now, this is kind of complicated. I hope I can explain it right. Imagine on day 1, we study chapter 1. And on day 2, we study chapter 2. And then on day 3, we study chapter 5. So again, day 1, chapter 1, day 2, chapter 2, day 5, or day 3, chapter 5, right? Now let's just say you showed up on day 3. If you say, in dars chandom ast. So if you ask me, in dars chandom ast, the answer to that question is panjom, the 5th study, the 5th class, or the 5th study, dars, the 5th, chapter. But if you asked, in chandomin dars ast, if you say in chandomin dars ast, can anyone guess what the answer to that question is? The answer of in chandomin dars ast is sevomin. So when you ask chandomin, it gives the sense of like in the order that we've gone. Whereas if you say chandom, it's just the number period. if that makes sense. There's like a very small nuance that there's no good way to even get at it in English. Like in English, you'd say, what number chapter is this on our schedule or from what we've studied, right? So like it would be like almost like if in English you said, I don't even know how to say it in English. What class are we on? You would say we're on the third class. And if you said, I don't know, which number class are we on? You say we're on number 5. I don't know. There's no good way to capture it. But in Persian, this nuance exists. So chandom, you have to answer and in, you have to answer in. So if I say emruz chandom ma hast, you'll say emruz dovom ma hast, sevom, charom, panjom until siyom, 30th. But here, if you say in dars chandomin hast, you have to say dovomin, sevomin, charomin, panjomin. All right. And then we have cheqadr, which is just a combination of the words che, which means what, and qadr, which means amount. I don't know why I added the che there. This is Persian and this is Arabic. Cheqadr. And then you just combine them because you don't need the silent he anymore. The silent he can exist as this vowel when you attach it to a word. And it would be wrong if you didn't remove it. If you add the he, it would be like cheqadr, which is wrong. So we have cheqadr, what amount? And this is for quantitative things that are measurable. Cheqadr shekar mikhahi, and it's followed by noun. How much sugar do you want? Cheqadr kebab mikhori, how much kebab do you eat in a single seating? It's basically captured by how much, what amount, etc. in English. And literally, again, it means what amount. And then we have qadri and kami. They both mean a little. They just have different etymologies. Qadri is a qadr, which is Arabic from qadr that we saw a second ago. Whereas kami is a kam, and kam means little in Persian. So you could say kami farsi sohbat mikonam. So in this instance, we have the compound verb sohbat kardan. Sohbat kardan. Speaking, doing. And the present stem is kon, which you guys saw in your vocabulary. So konam is I do. So sohbat konam is I speak, but then we use the continuous marker mi konam. Sorry, it looks so bad. Mi konam. Sohbat mi konam. So we have kemi farsi, sohbat mi konam. A little. Qadri fahm lazim ast. A bit of intellect is required. So Persians are, obviously we have all the ugly curse words, but we can also curse at you in a very flowery way. A bit of understanding is required here. A bit of intellect is required here. Qadri fahm lazim ast. Kami farsi sohbat mikonam. They both mean the same thing with no context difference at all. Bishtar means more than, but it actually means something like more, because besh itself, or bish in Iranian Persian, means more, and then tar is the superlative. So bishtar, but it just altogether, taken together, means more. $100 bishtar nadarim. $100, $100 more we do not have. We don't have more than $100. Bishtare Iran, but it also means most as well. So maybe I should add this. So most as well. Bishtare Iran Musalman ast. Most of Iran is Muslim. Culturally speaking, not making a statement about people's personal beliefs that it's hard to tell unless you talk to an individual, but in terms of the appearance of the country, right? There's more mosques than churches, more Muhammads than what would be a Christian name, Georges. So we have بیشتر ایران مسلمان است. بیشتر فارسی یاد بگیر. More Persian learn. Learn more Persian. So it doesn't always mean more than. That's why the than is in parentheses. And the antonym, the opposite of this is kamtar. So bish means more, kam means less, bishtar means more. Sounds redundant in English. Kamtar means more or less than. 10 nafar kamtar omadan. 10 people less came. It's like 10 or less people came. Kamtar aziyat kon. The verb here is aziyat kardan. Which means to bother. Aziyat kardan. And then kon is the stem, which is also used as the imperative. So kamtar aziyat kon means bother us less. Or me specifically, but us as well. Could be, it just says bother less, literally. Kamtarin kari ra kardam. And these can also be added to in. You could have bish, bishtar, bishtarin. Now in this case, there weren't any examples. Maybe I could have added one. Kamtarin kari ra kardam. So the very least is what this means. So kam is less, kamtar is less, kamtarin is the least. The very least, a deed, I did. I did the least I could do. All right. Then the last thing about numbers that I'll teach you is numerical compounds. And you just form them, and I should put the letter in Persian, by adding a silent H, which makes an A or an E sound depending on your accent. So dobar means twice. Dobare means again. Docharch means 2 wheels. Docharche means bicycle. Mard bisale means a man that is 20 years old. If you say mard bisal, it means a man of 20 years, which doesn't make much sense. It doesn't sound like he's 20 years old. It sounds like he's been doing something for 20 years or something. He has 20 years of experience at a company. I don't know. But it doesn't sound like he's 20 years old. So, mard bisale, a 20-year-old man. In the instance of docharche, sometimes the he is removed in colloquial Persian. You might just hear docharch, but usually numerical compounds, we don't drop the he. So usually you wouldn't hear someone say dobar omad, or you could sometimes, but most of the time they keep it. And for other instances like years, we would always keep it. All right, there was no questions today, really. I hope you guys found this easy then. Go ahead and unmute yourselves and we'll read the vocabulary. I think we'll be able to teach you guys the imperative actually pretty soon. The next chapter is literally just a few slides. Go ahead and unmute yourselves. Come on, more than 2 of you. All right, go ahead and say oyande.
Oyande.
آینده
Arzon.
ارزان
Anqadr.
انقدر
Inqadr.
اینقدر
Charch.
چرخ
Chand.
چند
Chaqadr.
چقدر
Hatman.
حتما
Qadr.
قدر
Qimat.
قیمت
Kam.
کم
Gozarandan.
گذراندن
Geran.
گران
Mordan.
مردن
Neshan.
نشان
Nemune.
نمونه
نمونه.
All right, excellent. All right. The imperative is super simple in Persian. You guys have actually already seen it in this class. So to command people in Persian is not difficult. All you do, maybe you guys have gotten annoyed with me saying that everything is not difficult, but truly I feel like it's not. All you do is you just add the B, like the letter B, to the stem. That's it. Like it's not that difficult. So let's look at it. So we have goftan, for example, just any random verb, goftan, to speak, to say. The present stem is gu or goi if you're in classical. And all you do is you add the letter be to it. So begu or begoi in classical Persian. Although I think not even the most conservative dialects of Persian will ever say this. This is just for your linguistic enjoyment. So you should probably always say begu. So again, the verb is goftan, the present stem, not the past stem, not goft, the present stem, the one that's harder, more irregular, that I admitted is the only real hard part of this language, is gu, and then you just add a b, begu. Now the gliding y does come up here. If a verb's stem starts in a vowel, then you need a y between the b and the vowel. So amadan, to come, is a. We don't say be'a, we say bi'a. Uftadan is oft, so we say bioft. Andochtan is, not andon, andaz. We don't say bandaz, we say biandaz. Now, there's actually an exception that I just remembered. I don't know why I didn't say it to you guys, or I didn't think of it, but life is like this. So I'll make this its own slide because I want to highlight the exception, and it makes no sense that there is an exception here. It's literally just one word. Exception is istadan. I don't know why there's an exception here. God knows. So istadan, I cannot for the life of me think why it's like this. And it just came up in my mind. I was just doing examples, running through examples in my mind, and I came across this. So istadan, if I want to follow the same thing, istadan, the stem is east, but we say beist for some reason. I have no idea why we do this. And I'm almost certain this is in I can't think of it being different in classical Persian. I think this is an irregular that really actually goes all the way back. It's that old. Beis. No, not bayest. I think if I go to the Wiktionary entry for istadan, instead of trying to find the stem, it'll probably have some usage notes. It's weird. It won't say anything about the usage. That's annoying. Yeah, see, imperative, based. But when I click it, it just brings me bayast. Let's see if the Kabbali's do that. Yeah, based. Literary Persian will be the same. Yeah, so this must be classical thing, but it doesn't actually say imperative. I don't know. That's annoying. I wish there was a little usage note. Maybe it's up to me now to go do that, to put the usage note that says this is the only irregular. Sorry, that deserves its own slide just for this sake. I don't know how to. Yeah, istadan is beist. Really weird. And I think it might just be because it would sound weird to say beast Yeah, it might just be that it sounds so weird. Beast, if you were to really say beast or something like that. So that's probably the reason. And I'll just even write that down. Beast sounds weird, probably. That's my thought. Beast. I can't imagine. It just sounds wrong. Oh, it even goes against the rule, kind of, where remember a long time ago we learned Arabic plurals, and I said that we have words from Arabic like taghir, but in Persian we treat them as if one of the Y's is gone, and even in Urdu it's spelled with one of the Y's gone because of that. Or for example, we said that in Arabic you could have rohaniyin or inqilabiyin, and we don't have that in Persian because een is hard to say for us. I think the same thing is true for beast. It's sounds weird slash Persian doesn't have double Y. So that's the reason. All right. How do you have the plural imperative? What you guys learned earlier was just the singular. Speak. There's kind of no good way to do it in English, right? There's no actual imperative infrastructure in English. We just put exclamation marks. Speak. How do you do it for the plural? Like, how do you say you all speak? And I'll actually even copy this over. So how do you say you all speak? It's really simple. You just add an id. So here we had begu. Here we have begu id. Again, here we have begu. Here it's begu id. So you just follow the same steps. Infinitive verb. Let's just say goftan, but any verb. And then the present stem is gu. Now that you could just find via Wiktionary if you haven't memorized them, and in the vocab slides, and ChatGPT will probably tell it to you too. And then all you do is you add a B to it. So goftan, gu, begu. And then if you want to make it plural, you just add id. Now, you might say, wait a minute, this breaks the rule. There's two Y's. Yes, this does. And I regret putting that Y. So in Iranian Persian, unfortunately, there's a tendency to replace this Hamza with a Y letter, even though it's not really a Y. Have we spoken about this before? I said, I think a long time ago in the really beginning of class when we were learning the alphabet, that certain words like Ra'is in Persian, like this is how you spell Ra'is, which means boss, they're replacing the Hamza with a Y. So they would spell Ra'is Rees, even though we actually say Ra'is. I don't know why. I can't tell if it's just laziness or people are forgetting this because illiteracy is a problem. Like people aren't being taught the language properly. But yeah, this should be a little Hamza. I apologize for that, which is, by the way, reflected in this little symbol. So when you're writing in Arabic, like when you're translating in Arabic, it's normal to see this. Like two Y sounds in a row. Taghir, we don't have that. So. All right, that was the imperative. And I think it's really that simple, right? You just take, again, the stem and you add a B to it. How do you do this with compound verbs? Compound verbs, not literally all of them, but they tend to not add the B for the imperative. So gom shodan is to be lost, to get lost. Remember, we only deal with verbs on the verbal element. So gom is just a noun. It means lost. So just like we say in English, get lost, this has become lost. So shodan, the present stem is show. But we don't say gom bisho. We say gom sho. And baz kardan is to do open, to open. We just say baz kon. We don't say baz bekon. So when you're dealing with a compound verb, we just drop the B thing. I don't even know why there's a space here. We drop the B element. But if you mess this up, that's fine. Everyone will understand where you're coming from and why you messed it up. So don't worry too much, but you will notice this. And this is informal Persian, classical Persian. Right, like Rumi says, divanisho. become crazy. He doesn't say divane bisho. All right. How do we negate the imperative? Again, super simple. It's like Persian was made to be simple. You just change the ba to a na. So begu becomes nagu. Bia becomes naya. Bioft becomes nayoft. That's simple. Don't speak. Nagu. Don't come. Naya. Don't fall. Nayoft. That's simple. So if you say begu, speak. Nagu. Don't speak. Bia, come. Naya, don't come. Bioft, fall. Nayoft, don't fall. Notice the gliding Y still applies. So if you want to go back to the gliding Y, Bia naya, bioft nayoft, biandoz nayandoz, beist naist. Although this one isn't a gliding Y, but just for the sake of the example. I'm going to take it by the lack of questions that Persian is really as easy as I say it is, right? People don't believe me when I tell them that it's a relatively simple language. But there it is. I think they're intimidated by the different font, the Nastali font they see, and they say, okay, this must be a complicated language. One negative or one irregular for the imperative is budan. So budan, its stem is bosh, which the irregular, it is an irregular stem, right? Budan bosh. Most of the stems kind of look like guftan gu, you know, the first two letters are there, etc. But budan bosh is kind of random. It's kind of like didan and bean. There's probably like 10 of them. They're just like truly irregular. And I can't for the life of me figure out why they ended up that way. But we don't add a B to this for the imperative. So yeah, bashad is related. Bashad is may it be. Bashe is just the informal, because in Iranian Persian, when a verb ends in a dal in the conjugation, we change it to a. So mi khorad becomes mi khore, bashad becomes bashe, etc. So bash, we don't add a be. We treat it essentially as if it's a compound verb. So we said earlier, if there's a compound verb, the imperative, we don't add a B to the stem. The same is true for bosh. And I think it's just like istadan. It would sound weird to say bibosh, like baba. So we just removed it because it sounded ineloquent. So you could hear someone tell their child, mard bosh, bachinisti, to their 15, 16-year-old boy. Mard bosh, bachinisti. Or in formal, mard bosh, bachanesti. Be a man. You're not a child. You have to get up. You have to do your homework. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Bashe means may it be, literally. Like bashe is an informal, neutral level of politeness, the way of saying I'll do something. So if you want to say yes, absolutely, I'll do something, you say chashm, which in Iranian Persian, the word for chashm, the word for eye, became cheshm. But when we want to say, yes, I will do something, we say chash. Chash, which is short for chashm, means eyes. It means on my eyes. It's even accompanied with a saying, kind of a movement. We go like this, if you want to be really formal. Chash, meaning it's on my eyes. It's dear to me. We even say, bar ruye chashm, upon the face of the eye, is even more formal. If you say someone, bar ruye chashm, means upon the face of the eye. And then you can add ba kamal mail, with complete desire, I will do this for you. So chashm. Then a medium level, which is neither formal or informal, is bashad, which in colloquial Tehrani Persian becomes bashe, which literally means may it be, or so be it. Just like in English. Oh, so be it. Okay, I'll do it. Yeah, can I text with whole desire? It's با کمال میل. با کمال میل. By the way, does anyone know any other common word we used that means so be it, but we don't mean it to mean so be it? The word amen also means so be it, which is the same as amin in Persian. So amen means so be it, but what we use it to mean is God accept the prayer. Bashad also means so be it, but it means okay, fine. Like it'll be. And then a lower tier of acceptance of saying like, damn it, fine, I'll do it, would be to say basha basha, to say it twice with a little bit of an exasperated tone. So if the king asks you to do something, you say chashm, chashm, aruya chashm, ba kamal mail. And if your sibling asks you to do something, basha. And if someone who's pastoring you asks you to do something, you say basha basha. Amin is not connected to amen. Amen is like Syriac or I think Hebrew or Greek or something. And then amin is Arabic and it comes from amn, which means safety. And it's the name of the prophet. It's Muhammad's name, Sadiq al-Amin, the truthful, trustworthy one. Amin is this. Amin is this. And they're both probably like Semitic or something. Let's see. From Ecclesiastical Latin, from Biblical Hebrew, yeah. Amin, cognate with Amin. Via Greek from Biblical Hebrew, yeah. So it all just comes back from Hebrew. And look how many words it goes back to. Yeah, there's not even an etymology for it. Anyway, not so important. Okay. All right, now unmute yourselves again. We'll do the vocab and I'll let you guys go. And I'll also give you your homework. So go to unmute yourselves. And then we have اتفاقاً
اتفاقا
أصلاً
أصلا
بشقاب
شخاب
بعداً
بعدن
بیرون
إيرو
پیر
إير
جان
جان
جنگل.
جنگل
You guys can see it's the same word as jungle. درست
درست
دوست داشتن صحبت
صحبت
ظرف
ظرف
فنجان
فنجان
قاشق
قاشق
قبلاً
قبل
کارد گم
گم
لیوان
لیوان
ماجرا
ماجرا
نو
نو
همانجا
بمانجا
همینجا
اینجا
بینجا
یخ.
یخ
Yeah.
All right, I've sent your homework. I hope that the concepts today are not too difficult. And look forward to seeing you all on Tuesday, and we're almost done with this intensive just in a few weeks. It's been,
on Wednesday.
yeah, not on Wednesday we'll be done. I'll see you on Wednesday. We still have 3 more weeks left, right? But we only have 9 classes, exactly 3 weeks worth of classes. So we'll end up finishing towards the last week of August, inshallah. See you all on Wednesday. Khuda Hafiz, everyone.
Khuda Hafiz.
Take it easy. Goodbye.